How's it going, everybody? It's Krusty Old Crow, and I'm back with an alternative perspective number 5. And this one is a wild one for me again. I didn't think it would be, guys. I am covering Marvel Legends series House of X, Moira MacTaggart. This figure was a huge surprise in what it brought to the table and what it forced me to learn about a character I had written off as well known to me in my years of comic collecting since I was probably 8 years old. So we're talking over 40 years of comic collecting, and I thought I knew this character when I got out halfway through my military career, when I stopped collecting because it was becoming difficult, deploying, training, everything. You couldn't keep on top of things. So shortly after House of M was when I said, okay, I'm going to walk away from collecting. If anybody knows what House of M is, that's where Magneto ran the world because Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, said, no more mutants. And all of a sudden House of M, not no more mutants. That was at the end of House of M when she said no more mutants. But she tried to give Magneto his perfect world where mutants ran the world in harmony with humans, right? And we saw all that reflected in Disney Plus's Scarlet Witch and Vision, kind of how they wanted to interpret it. But in House of X, there's a whole new history of Moira MacTaggart revealed that I never caught on to. So today I took a bunch of notes as I got reworded into the history of a woman who's lived more than once. And this isn't your typical, well, they die and come back in Marvel. No, this was retconned into how we even met her back in 1975. December 1975, X-Men number 96, Moira MacTaggart. So I'm going to do my review on this figure. You know, I'm going to have a look at the box. I've been showing it in pictures and things like that. But, you know, the box is a part of that Tri-Sentinel wave, which becomes very relevant as I do this review. And the review, the next review I have, which is the Omega Sentinel. It all starts tying together in this House of X as I paint you a picture of Moira MacTaggart, who is basically a Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. This woman has been trying through multiple lives lives and deaths to try and save the mutant existence, right? And trying to save humanity with it from an inevitable war against their own evolution. Right. And when we meet her towards the end, you know, we see her become the villain, the worst of all villains. You know, she decides which one actually is going to win that war towards the end. Right. So it's a dark story about her. But the character that Hasbro has presented to us, this book and this packaged regular, I don't know if she was regular edition, but like I said, she's the part of the Tri-Sentinel wave from the House of X series. And this thing's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm going to show you some fun I had with it and all the photos and the videos and whatnot while I review it and give it that 2 grades, right? Did they catch the character hit? How much of a percentage do I think they hit this character with as far as reflection goes? And then, of course, the play value hit. Was it worth the money? What did they put in that box that made me feel like, yes, there's a lot of play value or some moderate play value or barely any play value in this? We've seen a lot of different types of Marvel characters, and sometimes at that same price bracket of $25 US or $37 Canadian, what you get in a box is a crapshoot. So let's see how we rolled today with Moira MacTaggart. Oh my, I'm excited. But that's only because there's a lot to be excited to hear about, believe it or not. Now, this general synopsis about Moira MacTaggart that we see here on the box, it says, through the course of many lives and death, Moira MacTaggart pursues justice for all mutants, is just a really quick blurb to tell you who you're looking at, right? But if they had made Moira MacTaggart from 1975, and I'll describe that really quickly, they would have just left it at the one version that we see, right? Which is her with her hat and her scarf and her purple dress, you know. And that entire write-up would have said something very different about her running a Muir Island genetic research facility, a romantic involvement with Professor Charles Xavier, and how she's been a steadfast friend to the X-Men and all mutants throughout her time as a respected doctor, how she was, had a relationship with Banshee, how she had a son named Proteus, which was with an early X-Men villain that they had to kill. My God, they had it easy back then now compared to what it is. But who she's become in this series, wow, yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I will break it down to smaller chunks and really just give you the gist of what's happened. I'm not going to read the whole series to you. I'll just let you understand why this character is so freaking cool. There's the side of the box. On the back, they all have their own personalized variation of this background. And I like good use of these on packages. But the rest of that box isn't nearly as important as what's going on with that Tri-Sentinel wave, right? So I do have two components of this. I have no intention of finishing it because, as I've said before in other episodes, these Marvel Legends are what I snipe in the wild or can quickly arrange. They're not something I'm currently, pre-ordering the hell out of and buying complete waves yet. So, if I came across these, I would probably buy these. But we have the Brown and Tan Wolverine. We have Professor Xavier from the same series, the House of X. We have Omega Sentinel, who's the next review I have on deck. The original Marvel girl in her costume, we got her. We've got Moira MacTaggart, who we're doing the review on now. We've got the House of X Magneto, and we've got Cyclops, all in that mix, okay? So that's part of the Tri-Sentinel wave, and that's talked about the box. The last thing I do in this review on top of the two grades is I give a yes/no answer to the question, did they meet the potential of Moira MacTaggart's character with this product? And I'll give that a yes or no question after I show you guys what this character has going on. Let's go over and play with this thing. But before I take this deep dive into Moira MacTaggart, let me just ask you to like, share, subscribe. 3 people. The first one's for comic character resources like G.I. Joe characters and things like that you might want to learn about. I recommend JLS Comics. He's in our chat groups and he provides a great breakdown of some really key characters that we all want to learn about. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to him. And the other guy, of course, is Comics Explained. He doesn't need my shout out. He's got 2.4 million subscribers, but there's a reason he's got those guys. He is a phenom at breaking down really complex story arcs from your favorite titles, all the stuff you missed over the years that you've taken a break from collecting. He'll break it down for you and make it all very easy to follow. The last guy, of course, is your trusty old crow who sure could use those like, share, comments, and appreciates all the subs he has. Thanks very much. So again, this isn't a retro Moira MacTaggart, so it's not the Moira MacTaggart I understood as the human ally and scientific partner of Charles Xavier, working to understand the children of the atom and work for the betterment of mutants and mutant kind's relationship with humans. No. This is the retconned, more elaborate background where we find out that this is Moira MacTaggart the mutant who has lived 10 or more lives. And how she lived those lives is really just something I leave to you to go see Comic Explained. Explain this House of X whole story arc. But essentially, she's been spending centuries, essentially, trying to solve the mutant problem that always ends in world destruction or extinction of mutants and the constant war between mutants and humans that evolves to the darkest of futures. And so she's been seeking to avoid that to the point where she becomes the biggest threat they've ever known in the House of X. So she's a very interesting character, but we get 2 different reflections of her because while they retconned her, she has always been the same character. We just find out that she's been living a different life than we thought she had been living. So we get a good reflection of her in her era as she was appeared in the 70s. And we get the scientific looking version of her as well. So I've seen enough. I've said more than enough. It's time to start grading this thing. I got to give it that character hit percentage. How well did Hasbro do, reflecting the Moira MacTaggart I knew or learned about? And I got to give it that play percentage as in how much value do I feel this box brought to the table for what I paid for it, vice other figures, that percentage. So we're going to start right off the bat with the character hit percent. And I think I definitely am looking at 100%, be it because of the variations they gave it, the convincing head sculpt, But honestly, it's those little ads. Yes, they used a phenomenal buck. Yes, they dressed her completely appropriately for that character from House of X. And yes, they gave me two characters in one. Technically, I could say even three as far as how I look at this character. Having interchangeable arms was brilliant. Not just an interchangeable head, but interchangeable arms, because they gave you that option with the removable coat, the removable scarf. It's a shame the hat wasn't removable either, but it's that 70s big cap and it works for the character. Overall, there is no doubt in my mind this is Moira MacTaggart, and she doesn't look hapless as I once expected her to. If you had told me 20 years ago they were making a Moira MacTaggart figure, I would expect a look of fear on her face. But all I see on these faces is confidence, scientific wonder, and maybe a bit of flirtiness in that one with the cap, which was key. Because this was the Oxford era for her when she met Xavier, when she was making her moves. She made herself appealing. I like the tone they captured with the having these two specific. So 100% on that character hit. Now, as far as that play hit goes, I'm going to side in the air of caution. It's not going to be perfect because I realize there's a version of Moira that wasn't reflected in here. But it's high because Moira is reflected in a couple of really creative ways. Hell, she's even Velma from Scooby-Doo if you want her to be. But the point being is that they reflected the past Moira, the current House of X Moira, but they didn't show us what happened when Moira lived a life where she was resurrected using phalanx technology and became more like a sentinel herself. That was in the cards as well as reflection, then could have been provided with alternative parts as well. Would have bumped her up in a higher price bracket, but there was potential there. But this play value with two characters in one and the accessories they had, the little personality nods, I gotta give this at least a 90%. Look, she doesn't have claws, super strength. She can't blast, nothing. But what she can do is lend a mastermind perspective, a scientific lab assistant perspective. She can lend to the whole, personality of a shelf with her. You know, whether you're using her for Marvel Legends or other things. There's a lot going on for this character. It's a lot of fun to manipulate and switch back and forth. And she looks good in a lot of different places. So that 90% is well earned, if you ask me. Watching my video counts as asking me. Anyways, did they meet Moira MacTaggart's potential? That yes, no question I was going to ask. It's a yes, with a little asterisk saying, but if you'd moved it up to a deluxe, it would have been a yes with a harder emphasis. Again, I bring to the fact that there was other forms she was in just before the end of House of X that could have been reflected. If you want to see what those are, get caught up on, like I said, either Comics Explains breakdown of House of X or JLS Comics breaking down the characters that we find here that talk about the whole idea. You also see glimpses of it in X-Men 97 because it has a lot to do with Bastion and the Sentinels there. But it's very interesting. If you're into the X-Men, how can you miss on a Moira MacTaggart? Thanks very much for watching, guys. That's going to conclude this episode of an alternative perspective on Marvel Legends series, Moira MacTaggart from House of X. We'll see you next time for Omega Sentinel.